Hello and welcome to DroneTube. In this episode, we will explore the ruins and history of Hot Well Sulphur Springs in San Antonio, Texas. Hot Wells is the site of a cultural historical park in San Antonio. An artesian well was discovered on land then owned by the Southwestern Lunatic Asylum, also known as the Southeastern Insane Asylum, now known as the San Antonio State Hospital, in 1892. Intended to provide water for the asylum, the well was dug 1,750 feet deep and yielded 180,000 gallons of water per day. But the water had a temperature of 103 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit and smelled strongly of sulfur. It was found unfit for daily use by the facility, so the sulfur water was leased to Charles Scheuermayer, who became a pioneer in the field of water resources development, and the earliest to emphasize the medicinal properties of the local sulfur water. As analyzed by G. H. Wooten, a chemist at the State University in Austin, the mineral waters aided in the relief of blood poisoning, kidney, liver and skin diseases and rheumatism. Scheuermayer placed a full-page ad in San Antonio's 1892-93 city directory for his natural hot sulfur natatorium at the Southwestern Park. In 1893, McClellan Shacklett's bid to lease the water exceeded Scheuermayer's. Shacklett was to build a first-class bathhouse and a sanitarium or hotel housing 200 guests with the Arkansas Hot Springs Resort as his model. In June 1893, Shacklett bought a 10-acre riverside pecan grove about 400 yards from the hot sulfur, which he landscaped with a carriage drive to his resort known as Natural Hot Sulphur Wells, or, simply, Hot Sulphur Baths. On December 23, 1894, an early morning fire flashed through the Shacklett's bathhouse. He was asleep not far from the bathhouse when a neighbor woke him to engulfing flames and collapsing wings. Shacklett saved 5 guests from the smoke and rescued a 6th from the burning roof over the pool. The entire building was gone within an hour. Nearly a year later, investors from the north had secured a 25-year lease from the asylum, and in January 1900 2 land tracts were bought by the Texas Hot Sulphur Water Sanitarium Company, fully ousting Shacklett from the site. The company's president was Otto Kohler, who in 2 years would also lead the San Antonio Brewing Association, later known as Pearl Brewery, and in coming years would be regarded as the richest man in the southern part of the U.S., only to be murdered in 1914. By September 1900, a new natatorium was serving ladies, gents and families in 3 respective public swimming pools measuring 64 by 90 feet each. 22 acres were under development by the Texas Hot Sulphur Water Sanitarium Company across from the Southwestern Lunatic Asylum. Kohler's company bought a 3rd tract in 1901. By then San Antonio's hot sulphur baths were being characterized by the press as the famous resort, mecca of the health seekers and tourists this winter, reporting remarkable cures for a full array of ailments, and boasts that hot sulphur baths would soon be North America's most famous resort. The Star Film Company opened the Star Film Ranch across the river from Hot Wells in January 1910 and was based on 20 acres near Mission San Jose only through the spring of 1911, when operations shifted to California. In that short time, at least 60 silent movies were shot there. Company manager Gaston Méliès situated a film studio across the river, and other film companies evidently filmed early westerns in the vicinity of Hot Wells. His wife joined Méliès in San Antonio, as did her cousin, actress Sarah Bernhardt, who came in a private railway car for a 2-week visit. At the outset of his acclaimed career, film director Cecil B. DeMille also visited Star Film Company in San Antonio, staying at the Hot Wells Hotel. A sulfur well was dug on the Hot Wells property by the height of the resort's popularity, obsolescing reliance on the asylum's water source. Guests also came for the gambling. The Hot Wells Jockey Club had a resident bookie, and betting on ostrich races staged by Houston zookeeper F.W. Anderson on Sundays at an adjacent ostrich farm, where eggs could be bought for $1 before ostrich feathers became less de rigueur in women's fashions. Famous folks also flocked to the resort at its height, such as Charlie Chaplin, Porfirio Diaz, Douglas Fairbanks, Sr., Hoot Gibson, Mrs. J.P. Morgan, Tom Mix, Theodore Roosevelt, Will Rogers and Rudolph Valentino, all also allegedly stayed at the Hot Wells Hotel. World War I and Prohibition diminished the property's popularity, until September 1923, when the Hot Wells property was bought by Christian Scientists, and the hotel was converted into the El Dorado School. The hotel building, serving as the school's dormitory, burned down on January 17, 1925 in less than an hour. The bathhouse was saved from the flames by the fire department pumping river water on the covered passage from the hotel. Charles Dubose, John C. Kirkwood and M. H. Braden established the Hot Wells Tourist Park Company in December 1927 with the intention of converting the property into camping and park space with tourist cottages and a tourist park hotel. W. W. McAllister bought their company in 1929, leasing it on December 5, 1930 for 3 years to D. M. Leyland and S. M. Biddison for purposes of a bathhouse/sanitarium business while the tourist park continued to operate. McAllister sold the 21-acre property in 1942 to Mrs. Cleo S. Jones. She and her husband made of it a motel and trailer park. They reopened 2 years later and the lobby of the bathhouse had become a bar and grill called the Flame Room. Cleo Jones inherited the property in 1961 upon his wife's death. He and his second wife kept the Flame Room open until 1977. In August of that same year, old bathhouse items were auctioned. A section of the charred hotel remained visible and one swimming pool was still in use for recreation and recuperation purposes, but by the mid-1970s permanent trailer park residents were few and most of the tourist cabins were vacant. Jones put the property on the market for $500,000. It was sold in December 1979 to Catherine Shear, who hoped to open a holistic health center called Restoration Center. Ford, Powell and Carson Incorporated, was the architectural team hired for the restoration of the bathhouse and 3 pools and the construction of a hotel to be operated by an international leader in the health and beauty facilities. She wanted Hot Wells to be a stop on the Mission Parkway system. These things never transpired. Instead, the hotel and baths remained in ruins while a series of squatters overtook the trailer park and campsite remains, degrading the property for decades. In 1999, San Antonio real estate investor, James G. Lifeshutz, purchased the Hot Wells property and surrounding land to preserve the story of the ruins and deliver that history back to the public. Between 1999 and 2012, Lifeshutz engaged in a planning process for the property, including an attempt to plug the deteriorated and non-compliant well at the request of the Edwards Aquifer Authority. Lifeshutz made multiple attempts over many years, but the well continued to run. During this time, Lifeshutz performed triage on the ruin, shoring up what could be shored, removing dangerous elements that could not be saved, and restoring the north wing, which, although it had suffered extensive damage from previous fires and neglect, was ultimately salvageable. Lifeshutz installed structural steel, reframed the roof gable, repointed the brick, and repaired much of the damaged brick elements. In 2012, Lifeshutz approached Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf and County Commissioners Court with a plan to preserve this South Side resource as a ruin, and interpret it historically. With the leadership and support of Judge Wolf, Lifeshutz donated the ruin and nearly 4 acres of land to Bexar County. Lifeshutz's donation to Bexar County of the 3.92 historical center of the property underwent a protracted deed transfer process to accommodate the remediation of the sulfur well in compliance with the Edwards Aquifer Authority requirement. In 2013, the 120-year-old artesian well was permanently plugged by the Edwards Aquifer Authority. All other impediments were resolved by 2015 when the ruins were officially deeded to the county. In October 2015, Bexar County allocated $4 million funding the first phase of the nearly 4-acre park. The county went on to stabilize, landscape, and light the former hotel and bathhouse. The Bexar County Hot Wells Historic Park, Bexar County's first ever cultural historical park, opened on April 30, 2019, allowing visitors to safely explore the reinforced ruins of the former Hot Wells Hotel and Spa. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony to open the park, a new well was in the process of being drilled on adjacent acreage still owned by Lifeshutz. C&C Drilling, a firm that Lifeshutz and the Edwards Aquifer Authority engaged to help plug the historic well, drilled a new permitted and compliant well. Lifeshutz continues to work with Bexar County and other entities to realize the long-envisioned public/private effort to bring back the historic Hot Wells activities of wellness, dining, and lodging. Lifeshutz's vision for this adjacent acreage includes the development of the Hot Wells Interpretive Center, sulfur water soaking baths, a food truck park and beer garden, with campsites and cabins. This concludes today's episode of Hot Well Sulphur Springs in San Antonio, Texas. We hope you enjoyed the video and remember, like, and follow us for future historical material.